Hello and welcome. My name is Megan Bryson. I use she, her pronouns. This is a transfer advisor Q&A session. We're excited to have you here, and I have a few other colleagues joining me today. I'll let them introduce themselves. First, Jean, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Jean Gaffney. I'm Associate Director of Admissions, and I work closely with transfer students and community college advisors. And I'm really happy to have about 100 transfer students signed up for this webinar, and we really hope to be able to answer your questions.
Great. We also have Joe Golden and Robert Stoltzberg, who are going to be our chat moderators. So they'll be answering questions that you pose in the chat throughout the hour that we're together. And as far as our agenda goes, I'm going to go ahead and begin sharing my screen. So we'll take you through a quick presentation here. So to kick us off, we're going to go through a brief presentation with some common advising questions. I know a lot of you submitted questions that you have right now, which is really helpful. And so we've made sure that we answer a lot of those common advising related questions that you have. And then we're going to open it up for question and answer.
Right, and the chat moderators will answer brief questions in the chat as well. If you've got big ones for us, please hold those and we will answer them after the advising presentation. A couple of housekeeping items. We are recording this session for other students to view in the future. And we want to make sure that due to recording and confidentiality that you please keep your cameras off. Also, a couple of just sort of technical issues. We apologize, but we had a registration form for our student outreach services, which is having a webinar at 3 p.m. today that led to this session. So if you are at this session and you meant to participate in the student outreach services, you can still do that. You can register for that up until 3 p.m. But we hope you'll stay with us as well. We have our advising session from 1 to 2 and then a transfer student panel from 2 to 3. Be a full afternoon full of Western transfer information. We've also been notified by Zoom that they were having some technical issues earlier. So in the event that we do get bumped off this connection, please continue to try to get back on and we'll pick up where we left off if need be.
Great, thanks, Jean. Okay, well, we will carry on here. So let's get started with advising at Western. For our transfer students, your first advising experience is typically going to be at your transfer transfer orientation program, which Western calls transitions. This is going to include orientation, advising, and registration components. This is where we're going to help you learn about graduation requirements, including general university requirements, help you verify that if you have received an associate's direct transfer agreement from any Washington state two-year institution, that you fulfill those GURs. We can help verify that for you. Understanding overall transfer credits, help you understand the steps to declare majors at Western. Talk about academic planning tools and resources. There's a lot of tools that Western offers to help you in your planning, and we want to help you familiarize and get to know those resources moving ahead in your Western academic planning career. And then last but not least is we get you registered for your fall quarter classes. So you work with advisors to develop your schedules and get started there. More information from New Student Services and Family Outreach will be coming out soon about the transitions program that will include more information about timing, how to make a reservation for the program. So keep an eye out for that information from New Student Services and Family Outreach. Beyond transitions, advising can be done in a variety of ways. There's two general advising resources that I want to point out. One is the Academic Advising Center. That's the office where I work. And then Student Outreach Services. Both of our offices provide more general advising for students, helping them navigate resources, navigate to majors, answer a lot of policy advising questions, getting registered for classes, all the general advising, common things you might run into. And then academic departmental advisors. One thing that's really great about Western is we have advisors that work specifically within academic departments, and they have a lot of depth of knowledge of the majors that they're advising for. And those are actually folks that some of you may want to get in touch with now. We encourage students early to get in touch with these academic department advisors, especially if you have an idea of what you want to major in. They can give some tips on things that you can do to prepare and apply for that major. Once you are declared in a major, you will be assigned a faculty advisor who will then work with you throughout your major and remaining time at Western. So preparing for advising and registration. So what can you do right now to be prepared to come to transitions virtually, which will be a virtual program this year? The first thing is the virtual advisor, which is something that you will receive information about if you've confirmed to attend Western. You'll gain access to the virtual advisor starting or after June 1st. It's a Canvas course that is designed to help you prepare for your advising at Western. And it includes a lot of the same information you're going to learn about at transitions as well, get you started, introduces resources, and is definitely something that we recommend students do in advance of transitions. Some other recommended steps that we have for you. Send those final transcripts to admissions. The sooner you can get those going, the better. Make sure they're final transcripts. That's an important element there. Submit measles immunization to the Student Health Center. That's also an important thing and a requirement for course registration. And then another tip that we recommend is determine if you need the ALEKS math placement assessment. Some transfer students need it, other transfer students don't. We've put on here the website for the ALEKS math placement assessment. There's a lot of really great information on their website, as well as an exceptions page. So I believe it's in the FAQ section of, do I need the math placement assessment? And it offers some exceptions to what that might be. And major declaration, let's talk a bit about that. Exploring majors. There's a lot of different resources that are at Western to help you explore majors. Some of you may have an idea of what you want to major in, and that's great. You can learn about those in the catalog. Western's the 2020-21 catalog was recently posted about a week and a half ago, which is always exciting. And so we encourage you to check that out. From the main catalog page, you can click into the program of study link. It's on the left-hand menu. And from there, it takes you into all the majors and minors that Western offers. And it includes information like, how do I declare this? Who do I talk to get started? An overview of the major so you can get a sense of what's included in that. Academic departments also have really rich information on their own websites about the research you're doing, co-curricular activities, internships, faculty research that's happening, all sorts of interesting things. So we encourage students to check out academic departments as well. Take GUR courses. If you find yourself that you're still working through some general university requirements, GURs can be a great way to try out a major, because many GUR courses are introductions into majors, or they might have be a prerequisite for a major. So that's another great way to explore a major. And then academic advising and career services, both of our websites have some major exploration and career exploration resources that help students explore, or even though you might have an idea, doing some extra research to really solidify this is the direction that you want to go. One big question that a lot of students have is, when do I declare my major? And so that is something that really can vary depending on the major. Every major is different also in terms of what it takes to declare. And so we encourage students to check out those programs of study, which will also give you a sense of timing for when I need to do that. But in general, we recommend students buy 60 credits, have a good sense of what they want to major in. I realize some of you may be entering Western potentially with more than 60 credits. So it's a really great idea to start thinking about that, knowing that it's okay to be undecided, and there's lots of resources to help you in determining what it is that you want to declare. By 90 credits, we encourage students to be declared if possible. And again, if you're not, that's okay, but we want to make sure that you are exploring and connecting with academic departments to be on track with declaring in a timely manner. That wraps up my slides. So I think we will now hop into some general Q&A time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay. Well, I think we are ready for some questions.
So I see one about, does Western offer dual enrollment at Whatcom Community College? Whatcom Community College is one of 34 community and technical colleges in Washington State. It's the one that is in Whatcom County, closest to Western, although we also have a technical college and a tribal college in our region as well. We do not offer dual enrollment. Megan, you might be able to speak to your experiences with students taking classes at multiple institutions. I will say for students receiving financial aid that you can't receive financial aid at more than one institution simultaneously, and so that can be a consideration for some students, but I'll toss it to you to see if you've got any additional insights to share.
Yeah, that's great. We do see some students every once in a while will take courses at Whatcom or other schools. I think it really depends on. It doesn't happen really too frequently, but what we find is there may be a class that students are really trying to get, and there is an equivalent course that's being taught at Whatcom that will transfer over, and they verify in advance that it will transfer. Where we see students do that is sometimes in the summer. They might go to their home community or technical college and take some classes in a summer term or something, but it does happen. I think it just depends on the class and the individual situation. Definitely a conversation to have with an advisor. We always recommend, if students are looking at doing anything creative like that to chat with an advisor in advance to make sure, because we want to make sure that it's going to be a class that is going to contribute to your graduation requirements at Western. There's a question about, is transitions in July? Transitions dates are being solidified hopefully in the next couple of weeks or so, but July is the time frame for transitions program.
I see a question about whether or not a student coming in with their DTA associate degree will have all their GURs fulfilled, and Megan can chime in as well. But yes, the guarantee with that direct transfer agreement is that you'll come in with junior standing, at least 90 credits, and all of your general university requirements will be fulfilled. We also do offer a reverse transfer opportunity for students who maybe don't quite have all the requirements to earn an associate's degree, but are close enough that that's something they could consider doing after enrollment at Western. And Megan's office invites students to come in and meet individually with an academic advisor to discuss whether or not a reverse transfer degree is something that's an appropriate or in the best interest of an individual student. I did want to chime in. There was a question about final transcripts and when they're due, and maybe also what a final transcript is. A final transcript will be the last transcript, the transcript that has the coursework that's the most complete. So if you are currently enrolled in classes and you're finishing up your degree, say spring term, then your final transcript will be when your spring grades are recorded to your transcript. We want students to send in their final transcript, and especially that means also with your degree posted. So typically if you're earning an associate's degree, oftentimes your courses will be added to your transcript before your degree is. And when you request your transcript be sent to Western, you want to indicate that you want to send a transcript that has your degree posted on it so that you confer all of the benefits of that associate's degree if you are earning one.
There's a similar type of question. I have 90 credit AA. Does that mean that I should have my major decided by the time I'm admitted to Western? So related to that question and kind of tagging onto a major, it's not required that you know your major if you have 90 credits, but we want you to be exploring and figuring it out in a sooner than later manner, just because one of the big triggers for timely graduation is timely major declaration. So congratulations on getting that AA degree. I was one of those when I transferred to Western with my associate's degree. Really important for you to be exploring majors and talking with academic departments So you'll know what you'll be registering for in that first term at Western.
I see a question. I have a DTAA from a community college in Washington State. It's my understanding that all of these credits will transfer. Is that true? So again, the DTAA degree, the transfer agreement is that 90 credits will transfer. Western does accept up to 105 lower division credits at the 100 and 200 level. And so it's possible that students will come in with more than 90 credits who are earning an associate's degree, but at least 90 credits should transfer. So within that, typically we see at least 65 academic credits and then up to 15 credits that might not ordinarily transfer outside of that direct transfer agreement. So that's one of the benefits.
It's a question, if you're finishing up summer quarter, can you still do transitions before? So I'm assuming this is if you're finishing up summer quarter at your previous institution, can you still do transitions? You absolutely can do transitions. Make sure that you are, after summer term, sending in those final transcripts from wherever you're attending to get those transcripts submitted so you don't miss out on those credits. But definitely attending transitions is going to be an important one. There's also another question related to transitions. How will it work if transitions is in July, but enrollment for classes is in June? This is a great question. Enrollment for fall classes in June is going to be for continuing students. The continuing students will register in June. That date is still to be determined. And then as a new transfer student to Western, your first opportunity to register will be at transition. So you will register during your transitions orientation program.
So there's a question here. The president's message included a statement that offered all students the opportunity to take all classes online in the fall. If I were to take my course load online in the fall, would I be required to be in Bellingham? Obviously, in the current circumstances, there is a lot of uncertainty around life in the face of COVID-19. And so some of these questions, we'll answer to the best of our ability based on the information the leadership has provided. But our president has submitted a message to the campus community, new students, incoming students, current students, staff, faculty, with the expectation that we'll have a hybrid approach to learning in the fall. One of the questions in the chat was if classes will be entirely online for the entire academic year. I haven't heard of any planning beyond fall quarter. I'm sure those conversations are happening, but the most immediate need is to determine what fall quarter will look like and how to continue to provide an exceptional academic education and be adhering to safety concerns of our students and staff and the guidelines that are put in place nationally and regionally. So we do expect a hybrid approach with some in-person classes and some online classes, but it is true that students can take their classes entirely online fall quarter if they wish. And there is no residency requirement at Western, so students are not required to live on campus and they're not required to live in Bellingham.
There's a question here. How do we declare our major? Great question. And this particular one is I'm intending on transferring to earn a BS in physics and would like to declare as soon as possible. I think that's great. My recommendation is to go to into the catalog. And if our moderators could post the catalog link, that'd be great. The catalog programs of study, all of the majors are there. So in your case, physics BS will be listed there. It will include a description of the major, contact information for who you get in contact with to declare. And then in the case of physics, there's a number of classes that are required as prerequisites. You may have met some of those already. A lot of them are math and science-based courses. And so the list of classes will be there. That way you can identify, are you ready to declare? What remaining classes do you have to fully declare the major? In the case of physics, they have a two-tiered process. So some majors you go through the application process and you're declared. Others have a two-phase process. So some majors call it phase one as the initial phase, and then you're fully declared. Others, it's a pre-major phase. So typically a phase one or a pre-major is you've declared an intent to major in that area and you're working through the prerequisites steps to apply to be fully declared in the major. And what's nice about those programs of study is they map out every single one of those steps. So they're missing no detail, and you can follow along there based off the major that you're considering.
Here's one for you, Megan. If you were preparing all of community college for a specific major, is it normal to have second thoughts and switching? I've been
Oh,
extremely stressed since I feel like I have to declare right away once I arrive. Before I volley that to you, I want to make clear that students know when we ask on the application for admission for students to declare their academic interests, but that is different than declaring a major. So all we are doing is trying to assess your relative preparation for your areas of interest, and it's different than declaring a major. So all students who are new to Western, regardless of what they put on their application for admission, will go through the declaration processes that Megan has outlined.
Thanks, Jean. That's great. I'll also share that you have the ability to go in and update your academic interest once you've confirmed a Western. And so whatever you put on your admission application, it's not set in stone. You can go in and update that. There are a number of departments that actually reach out to students based off of that academic interest to share information about ways to prepare for that particular major. Second guessing majors, such a normal thing. I think that's actually a good thing, to be really thoughtful about what it is that you want to do. What we encourage students to do is be a sponge, right? You're taking in a lot of information. You have more academic opportunities likely than you've experienced at a previous institution, especially if you're coming from a two-year college. Western has so many major options, lots of minor options. Students get super creative too. And that's something that I would encourage you is take one of those intro classes or take a class that might be a prerequisite or get you into the major to give you a taste of trying out the curriculum and seeing if it's something that you resonate with. I think talking with professors and departmental advisors is one of the best things that you can do. They're specialists in their field. They know so much about the field, about the different areas, about the careers that you can go into after that. So talking with the experts definitely can help you see if that's the right fit for you. The other thing you can do, we get creative with students sometimes, is you can major and minor in all sorts of different combinations of things. So we work with students who think, I want to major in this and minor in this, and they can flip-flop that too, depending on where they're at. So you don't want to get too far along and be moving things around, but especially as you're in this exploratory phase, trying things out, talking to the experts, that's the best thing you can do. And changing your mind is not the end of the world. That's where we can come in, and we work with students all the time to get creative with what other classes have you taken and other ideas that we might help you with as you're figuring out what your next step is.
I see a question about when transcripts are due, and I want to just take a step back and explain a little bit about your personal transfer equivalency report. So I see the chat moderators posted the transfer course equivalencies, which are a list of courses that we've deemed transferable from our Washington State community and technical colleges, as well as four-year institutions within Washington State. Once you've confirmed your admission to Western and prior to your transitions advising date appointment, we will mail you instructions via email on how to run your transfer equivalency report. So your transfer equivalency report will show all of the courses that Western has accepted and transfer and how they apply to your degree at Western. So you can go into our degree audit system, which is called DegreeWorks, and run your credits, kind of wash them against different degree requirements. So if you're not coming in with a DTA associate's degree, you can see how the classes that you've taken will apply towards our general university requirements. You can do a what if scenario. So if you're deciding whether or not you want to major in psychology or sociology or kinesiology, you can see how the courses that you've completed will apply towards any of those degree goals. So be on the lookout for that email, and it probably goes without saying, but if you have changes to your mailing or email address, please alert the Office of Admissions, as we will continue to communicate with you between now and the start of the quarter.
There's a question about math. Great question. Lots of math, always great math questions. Does everyone have to take the math placement course? I'm going to assume that's maybe math placement assessment. The answer is no. I think it's going to depend on, it's very individual. So if, for example, if you have your direct transfer agreement, which many of you do, that means you fulfilled those general university requirements. If you're choosing a major, let's say sociology, doesn't have any math, I should pick something else, psychology, doesn't have any math requirements, or English, something like that. Therefore, you don't, unless you choose to take something at Western that has a math or science prerequisite, you don't have to necessarily take the math placement assessment. I think it really depends on what it is that you're wanting to study, and what transfer credits you have. So that is a conversation we recommend you have with an advisor. Check out that Alex Math Placement Assessment website. And then definitely something that is, we talk about during the transitions program, and it's in the virtual advisor. We have a good amount of math advising information in that virtual advisor Canvas course that you'll gain access to after June for confirmed students.
See another housing question. Is it possible to stay home during fall quarter, then apply to a residence hall for winter or spring? Our university residences hopes to have additional information for students about housing on campus for all of 2020-2021, hopefully by the middle to end of June. So unfortunately, we don't have all the answers that students may be seeking around housing, but they will be sure to communicate those decisions once they've been made. Our goal and our hope is that we can provide on-campus housing to all students who want to live with us, but a lot of those final decisions have yet to be made and communicated. Question about when I should let admissions know about address changes. I haven't moved yet, and I've signed a lease for on and off campus apartment. So really your address change should follow where you are. So if your mailing address, if your physical location changes and you want to receive mail at your physical mailing address, then I would update the mailing address that admissions has as well.
There's a question here. When will we be able to speak directly with an advisor about what classes to take and when to work on a plan for the next 2 years? So a couple of ways I want to answer this one. First, if you have a major in mind, go ahead and reach out to those academic department advisors now to figure out what are the steps that you need to do. Check out the catalog, look at those programs of study. As far as you'll attend that transitions program that we keep mentioning. That's where you'll do your fall term classes. In terms of planning the next 2 years during orientation, our goal is to get that first quarter scheduled, and then after that you can start planning the following 2 years. But the goal is to get you started in fall quarter first. Jean, there's a question that follows this one. Where can we find information to contact an advisor to plan out how credits from an out-of-state private four-year institution will transfer and what courses they'll need to take?
Right, so students after confirmation will receive that transfer equivalency report. In the meantime, we have often seen students transfer into Western from all kinds of schools, including quite possibly the school that student who asked the question is attending. So you may always reach out to the Office of Admissions and we will send you a list of the courses that we have already evaluated from that transfer institution. There's often a considerable overlap with the courses that a student takes in their first couple of years at any university, and so it's possible that we'll have a good number of those. We can provide that to you in advance, and then we can provide the transfer equivalency report after confirmation and prior to registration.
Question of, can you double minor? Yes, you can double minor.
Question about how does housing pick work? How does housing assignments? A lot of information about housing assignments is still up in the air, unfortunately, for fall. And so we really encourage students to reach out directly to housing or check the housing website. We understand students are anxious to know what fall quarter looks like, and housing is a big part of that. And we will be sure and communicate when decisions have been made about housing to all confirmed incoming fall students. And unfortunately, I know that's not the most satisfying answer, but the way things have worked traditionally may not be the way things work in the fall, and so we don't have real definitive answers about housing. Question about Megan, is there a way to set up a Zoom meeting with your advisor?
Yes, there's the many academic departmental advisors are offering Zoom, and the best way to do that is to go onto those departmental websites. to connect with advisors. The first time you'll see one of the advisors in my area is during transitions. So that will all, our virtual orientation will be done virtually, so you will see us at transitions. So again, watch your Western email. I know there was a question about that. Where will I learn about transitions? That will all be communicated to you through your Western email. So just keep watching that resource. There's a question about the taking a Spanish class. I want to take intermediate Spanish. Do I need to take the placement test for that? You will need to take the Spanish placement test. All students wanting to take a Spanish class at Western will need to take the Spanish placement test. It's an online test. You can get in touch with Modern and Classical Languages Department to take that test. There's a small fee for the test, and you get your results pretty quickly. So definitely recommend taking that in advance. More information about the Spanish placement test will also be rolled out with the transitions program as well.
There's another question about, is it likely campus classes will be resumed in the fall on campus or online? I'm wondering, moderators, perhaps you could post a link to the president's latest communication about that. So quickly to answer, I've already said this earlier, but our plan is to have a hybrid approach to fall quarter that includes both online, in-person, on-campus classes, as well as online courses for students. Can we defer our attendance to later in the year or next year? If you've confirmed your enrollment to Western and for whatever reason it's not possible or in your best interest to come for fall quarter, you can request a deferral. Traditionally, we consider deferrals on a case-by-case basis for the following quarter. So a student who is admitted for fall quarter would be able typically to defer until winter quarter. Typically, anything beyond that would require an additional application, but those are individual decisions that we would be happy to look at your circumstances and your application and work closely with any student who wants to defer to a future quarter if they're not able to come this fall.
Another question about minors. Before you declare a minor, do you have to declare a major? Not necessarily. Nope, you can declare a minor before a major. It is a graduation requirement to have a declared and completed major. So Western's graduation requirements include 180 minimum completed credits. That includes transfer credits. You have to have 60 upper division credits, which are 300 and 400 level courses. You have to have a completed major. There are a few majors that require a minor, which is mapped out in the requirements for those particular majors. But a lot of students say, do I have to do a minor? You don't have to do a minor unless you're one of the few majors that requires it. But it can be a great way to explore another area, add on a different set of skill sets. Students complete minors for all sorts of different reasons. Some students say, I'm interested in this, but I don't want to do a full major in it, or they want to add it in for resume building, employment reasons. Some students realize, wow, I took a lot of anthropology classes. I'm only 2 away from a minor, so they tack on an anthropology minor. Like, there's all sorts of reasons why. Minors are pretty, I like to describe them as petite. They're only like 24, 25 credits. There's a few that are a little bit larger than that, but they're quite smaller than a full major is.
I see a question about, I'm new to trimesters. How does that work? I'm assuming that question is coming from someone who maybe attended a semester institution. Western is on quarters. So most students go the academic year, which is fall, winter, spring quarter from September to June. We also offer a summer session. For students who are transferring from a semester school, the way we award transfer credits is that we award 1.5 quarter credits for every semester credit that you've earned. I don't know if you have anything to add about people transitioning from semester to quarter. Quarters are fast and furious.
Yeah, we move pretty quick. Yeah, I think just in general, one thing I hear from students is it is faster. So from a student success perspective, I would say be prepared for it to go a little bit faster than normal. And that's okay, that's expected. But yeah, it's exciting. There's a couple of language placement questions. So we answered the Spanish placement one. If you're taking Spanish at Western, you need to take that Spanish placement test. There's questions about German and Japanese. For all other languages, we recommend you get in touch with the Modern and Classical Languages Department. You can look them up in the directory. They want to know more. If you've taken some language in the past, they're going to want to have an individualized conversation with you to give advice on where you should start. Every language is a little bit different, and they want to know what's your background, where you know, have you traveled, have you been abroad, how many classes have you taken, or how many years have you taken, to find the right fit. And so again, modern and classical language department is going to be the best place for you to find out where your class placement is.
I saw an earlier question in the thread about post 9/11 benefits, and I do work closely. I'm the admissions liaison for veterans and dependents. Although I'm no expert, I would refer anyone with questions about post 9/11 or any kind of educational benefits questions directly to our Veteran Services office. They will be able to look at your individual circumstances and let you know how things stand for you as we move into fall quarter. Likewise, we have really terrific resources for students who need to link directly. Student Outreach Services was also mentioned as a great resource on campus. The Veteran Services Office, as well as a Disability Access Center, can be really good offices for students to reach out to if you need accommodations or specific insight into how things might look for you in the fall. Megan, I saw an earlier question that asked, is it difficult to get the classes that you want to take? And that I heard that classes can go super fast and that picking them can be kind of overwhelming. So maybe you can talk about that, like the actual in the moment registration experience for new students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, happy to do that. Thanks, Gina. I'd seen that one. So well, first we recommend planning. We see the more planning students do, the smoother the registration process is. So having multiple schedule options is always a recommended thing to do. So have your primary schedule that you're hoping to get and have some backup options. So in that moment when registration goes, if when it opens, if things aren't available that you would hope to get into, that you've got some backup options. In general, that's something that we survey students on actually after orientation every year is how do you feel about class satisfaction and what your first term schedule is. It is something that actually students are overall very pleased with, that they got their schedules. We release classes during orientation for students. So earlier we were mentioning that continuing students will register for classes in June sometime. Seats will be held out for incoming transfer students as well as our incoming first year students. And so we do some analysis looking at where interests of incoming students over the past several years to then hold back some of those seats and release them during the transitions program. I really recommend that you get in touch with the academic departments in advance. In some cases, there may be overrides that you need to get or some other things. So I think if you are interested in a particular major, getting that early advising from them, getting tips and recommendations on what classes should I take, should I have backup options, and so on.
I see an earlier question again about final transcripts. So a student who are attending summer quarter and thinking that the final transcripts are due June 1st. So we want students who are finishing spring quarter or spring semester to send in their transcripts by July 15th. We will have everything included in your transfer equivalency report that we have on file as of June 1st. Unfortunately, the turnaround is too quick for us to receive all those end of spring quarter transcripts and turn them around for every student attending transitions, which is typically the end of July. And so we will make sure that you have whatever's on file through June 1st. For a lot of students, that will be what transcripts they provided at the time of admission, which might only be through fall 19. If you've taken classes winter, we certainly encourage you to send those updated transcripts so we can include those in your transfer equivalency report. If not, you'll have on file whatever you had at the time of admission or by June 1. And then as we receive updated transcripts throughout the summer, we will update your records so that that's reflected in your transfer equivalency report and in our degree audit system. For students who are taking classes through the end of summer into August, then we just invite you to send them as soon as they're available. And you would certainly want to make sure those are received before orientation for winter quarter happens, because continuing students register for future quarters based on the number of earned credits that they've completed. So you want to have all the credits for which you're eligible on file with the office, really ideally in September and no later than October.
There's a question here. I have not received any information about transitions. Will I receive any via email? Is transitions online this year? Answer is yes to all of that. So you will receive information from the New Student Services and Family Outreach. They're the main office that offers the orientation programs. Keep an eye out for that information, and in the next little while here, they anticipate having more information out later in May or in June, early June. Is transitions online this year? Yes. Western made a decision in the end of April that all our orientation programs for incoming students will be offered in an online format. That includes transitions. So we'll have more information out about what that will look like, and look forward to sharing that with you when it's available. Our teams are working really hard to plan these programs behind the scenes.
I see a question about parking. I will be living off campus. How does the parking permit work? All students, whether they're living on or off campus, would need to apply for a parking permit if you're planning to bring a car to campus. And the admitted students section of the admissions website has a admitted transfer student guide with all kinds of next step information, including links to parking resources. So I encourage you to apply for parking. You don't need a car at Western. We have a lot of opportunities for students to walk, bike, ride the bus, and I would encourage you to consider not having a car if that's an option. But for students who do want to park on campus, you would need to apply for and receive a parking permit.
There's a question, what is a good workload to have and what is a good range of credits? These are both excellent questions. Good workload to have, if you were to work on campus, you can't actually work more than 19 hours a week. And so we recommend that students are mindful of that, watching how many hours a week you're working, and balancing that with the workload of your courses. So what's a good credit range? Typically, we recommend students are taking 14 to 16 credits a quarter to stay on track. A lot of students, if you're coming from one of the two-year community or technical colleges, you're used to taking about 15 credits a quarter. Western doesn't have quite as many 5-credit classes. A lot of our classes range from 2 to 5 credits. So that's where we say a range of 14 to 16 is a good estimate. We really encourage students to apply the study ratio of, for every 1 hour I'm in class, I should be studying 2 hours a week. So for example, if you're taking 15 credits, that means 15 credit hours you're in class. Therefore, you're studying 30 hours a week, which is already 45 hours in a week, and that's a lot. And so adding in work on top of that, we realize some students need to work while they're going to school, and totally respect that. But just finding that balance is an important thing, to make sure that you're able to work while also balance academics at the same time.
Some questions about when students will receive information about financial aid and information about the work study program. So typically, if you have filed your FAFSA or your WASFA, typically students hear from financial aid within about 2 to 3 weeks of receiving their offer of admission. If you haven't, then you're certainly welcome to reach out to the financial aid office. They are taking phone calls and available via email as well. But the way you access that initial information is in Web for You, and students who've activated their account can go in and do that without being confirmed. So whether you're an admitted student or you've confirmed your enrollment to Western in the fall, you should be able to access that financial aid information. Work study is a part of a financial aid package, and so it is limited to students who receive that as their package. But work study students typically have a lot of options in terms of where they work on campus, and Also, we have a student employment center. So unlike some universities, you don't have to be eligible for work study in order to work on campus. Like Megan said, we have a lot of positions, and students can often work up to 19 hours a week on campus, whether or not they're eligible for work study.
There's a question. I plan on taking summer class at another institution that is a prerequisite to a class that I want to take this fall at Western. Will I be able to register for the class in fall if my summer class doesn't transfer in time? It's a great question. You will want to get in touch with the department of where that class is offered and send them a copy of your summer schedule and request to see if they can give you an override into that class. Because Western won't be able to have that summer class in the system to be able to verify the prerequisite, it's going to be important that you get in touch with that department in advance, and they hopefully can put an override in the system. It's up to every department on how they manage that, but that's what your next step would be, is to get in touch with that department.
Just put a plug in there that even if you're completing that prerequisite spring quarter, it probably won't be in your transfer equivalency report. So encourage you to do that. Bring an unofficial copy with your grades or whatever it is you can do to show evidence of passing those courses or being enrolled in current courses for the department.
There's a question, and Jean, maybe you and I could share that if we have an answer to this one. Will you be offering or continuing with the WOOT trips this year? I haven't heard any final answers on WOOT yet. Do you have any information on those programs?
I do not have any updated information. One of my behind the scenes chat colleagues might have some additional insights, but I've not heard anything about WOOT for this fall.
Okay, great, thanks. Go ahead.
Question, are there limited capacities for majors?
We're reading the same question. Do you want to go? We can probably both answer that question.
Excellent question.
Do you want to start answering? You want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay. It really depends. It depends on the major. Every major is a little bit different. Some majors do indeed have capacities and others don't. I think that's, I'll take a minute here to talk about majors. So every major is a little bit different in terms of, one, what the capacity looks like, and also the structure of the major. So there's some majors that are cohort based. So you apply at a very specific time, you get admitted into a particular group or cohort, and then you travel together throughout that major. And so in those cases, there are definitely some restrictions on capacities. Other majors are more open, and as long as you meet specific admission requirements, whether that's a portfolio or prerequisite classes or what have you, you can get into the major. So what I would recommend that you do is take a look at those majors to find out what those requirements are, get in touch with the departments, and they'll be able to help you more specifically answer that question of what does that look like. There are some majors that are more popular or impacted than others. And so that's where, again, it's getting in touch with those departments early to find out about that. We don't want you to wait and then have surprises down the road that you did not expect. So getting in touch early with those departments is going to be important.
Yeah, I'd like to underscore that. I think sometimes students, are hesitant to reach out to the department because you haven't set foot on campus yet. You don't have an established relationship. You haven't been assigned an advisor in your department, but the academic advisors, whether they're in the academic advising center or in the departments, are really eager to make sure that you are making good choices and that you're on track and that you have the information you need to make an informed decision. So please don't hesitate. And I think Megan's mentioned these resources before in her presentation, but both the programs of study, which have really specific information about the major declaration process and any requirements, whether they are prerequisites or GPA requirements, can be found there. And then the academic department departments also have really great content. So you might find in a program of study that there's a minimum GPA for a particular major, but on the department website, you might find more information about the profile of students who are actually admitted to that major that's different than what the minimum is. And so kind of using the programs of study, which are in the university catalog and the department websites in companion. And then after you've done that, reaching out with the department with remaining questions can be a really good tactic.
Question, am I able to talk to an academic advisor without having classes at Western yet? We talked about this one a little bit. There's going to be some resources that are provided to you in the Virtual Advisor Canvas course. A lot of basic kind of get you started advising information through that Virtual Advisor Canvas course. You'll talk with advisors at transitions, but then right now, as we've mentioned, you can reach out to academic advisors in the various major areas as you're thinking about connecting with or areas that you're wanting to major in. They're eager to talk with you, as Jean just mentioned.
I see one about I'm missing 5 credits to get my associate's degree, my AADTA. Will that affect me when I go to Western? And sorry for repeating ourselves because I know some folks have hopped on a little bit late, but occasionally when we offer admission to students, we do it upon the condition of students having their associate's degree. And so you would want to review your offer of admission carefully. And if you have been admitted conditionally upon receiving that AA degree and you find that you're not, then you would want to reach out to the Office of Admissions and we can take a look at your individual circumstances and determine if that condition can be lifted. In general, we don't require students to come with a DTA associate's degree. And so if you're missing 5 credits, it means that you'll probably want to have a conversation with somebody in Megan's office, because if you're 5 credits away from your associate's degree, it may be possible for you to complete it at Western and then do what's called a reverse transfer. So you can get the benefits of that DTA associate's degree after coming to Western, which would then fulfill your general university requirements. That looks different for each student, and so there's no great blanket answer, but the advisors in the Academic Advising Center are really well suited to help students understand their options.
Yeah, thanks, Jean. Our office will reach out to students who look like they are close to a DTA, but not quite there. We reach out to students around the 3rd week of their 1st quarter to say, hey, come talk with us about the reverse transfer option. In some cases, it makes great sense. And in other cases, it doesn't make a difference. So we're going to talk, it's all very much on an individual basis. So we can have those conversations with you in the fall about, is taking advantage of the reverse transfer policy a good option for you or not? There's a question, when and where are transitions going to be held? What is needed from us during transitions? Transitions is all going to be virtual this year. This is, Western made the decision in the end of April to offer transitions virtually. More information will come out in the coming weeks about what that program will look like in more detail. Our teams are working really, really hard right now to plan what these programs are going to look like for you virtually. We will still offer the same components of orienting you to Western, helping you get started with advising and get you registered into classes. Right now, keep checking the admissions information that's being sent to you, be checking the information from New Student Services, Family Outreach, and then watch for an announcement in your Western email from Academic Advising with an invitation to a Canvas course called Virtual Advisor. That will become live for you for confirmed students shortly after June 1, and that's going to provide all the recommended things that advisors provide to incoming transfer students about what you can do to prepare to attend transitions. Jean, there's a question. Is it possible to learn more about a reverse transfer option now? Correct me if I'm wrong, the transfer credit policy section on your website has more information about the reverse transfer?
It does, and I would be
Okay.
happy to work with any students by reviewing the courses that we have on file and having a very preliminary conversation with them. So folks are also willing or able to reach out to admissions, and we'll do our best to answer your individual questions now. But yeah, there is some basic information on our website in the transfer section. Did we answer the question about immunization records, Megan? And
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm scrolling through as well. Those will, the question was, where do I get my immunization record? You're going to want to get in touch with your medical provider. That's typically where we encourage students to go first about that. Our student health center can also help with that process as well if you have questions. That's all managed through Western Student Health Center. And Jean, do you have anything else to add on to that?
no, that's it. Is there any one checklist with all the things I need to be ready for the fall quarter? There is, on the admitted student section of our website, we do have a transfer student checklist, and it's basically got the next steps, such as what we've covered in terms of sending your final transcripts, determining whether or not you need to take that ALEX math placement assessment, sending measles information, has links to parking, etc. And if students are wondering when we receive final transcripts, there is an opportunity to check your application status in the admissions website, and that has information about when we receive your transcripts as well. And we will be in touch periodically, and you'll certainly hear as you receive invitations to transitions, you'll hear be underscoring those requirements for what you need to make sure and take care of before you come or before you virtually participate in transitions.
Does Western have a clinic that offers immunizations? We do. The Student Health Center is our on-campus clinic. I would recommend you get in touch with their office directly before planning any kind of campus visits. My understanding is that they're using telemed and other types of virtual options, but they are preparing for immunizations. Don't know what that looks like yet, but I would say get in touch with the Student Health Center if that's something that you have more questions about.
Question about housing payments. Again, would want to refer students to university residences for any questions related to housing. The housing application deadline got moved, like our enrollment confirmation deadline, from May 1 to June 1. So students have until June 1 to apply for on-campus housing, and then the university residences will be in touch regarding assignments and payments and all those other requirements. Two minutes left here. Question about whether or not Western offers COVID-19 testing. I would refer you to the COVID-19 website that the university has provided because what things look like now may be different than what things look like in the future. So that is the one-stop resource for all things related to planning for the fall and for current students. And so I don't know exactly what offerings the Student Health Center will be able to provide in the fall. I don't know, Megan, if you want to chime in about what's happening currently, but I would just continue to check on that COVID-19 website, as that will be updated always with the most current information.
Yep, I second that, Jean, and I would also add that if we did any testing, it would likely be through the Student Health Center again. So yeah, check out that website. It is a great resource. We're on it on a regular basis. There's a parking question here, Jean. When I go to purchase a parking pass, it only takes me to 1 day or a week passes. I'm going to recommend getting in touch with the student business office who manages parking for Western. I'm not sure what that portal looks like in detail, and so I would recommend getting in touch directly with the student business office. I know they're available virtually, so emailing them is probably a great next step.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are nearly at time, but I see one final question is about, will masks be a requirement for in-person classes? And if so, will Western provide masks for students? At this point, we're of course following the guidance put out by the Whatcom Health Department as well as state and other authorities. And Whatcom County is encouraging anyone who's within 6 feet, indoors or outdoors in public spaces, who's not with immediate family members, to wear a mask, but it's not a requirement. So I think the answer to that will depend on whatever public health guidance we are following at that time.
I want to say thank you. Thanks, Jean, for being my co-host, and I really appreciate it. Thanks to Joe and Robert on the chat. You both did great. Thank you so much. We're going to transition it at this point. So thanks for your questions, and enjoy the rest of the panel.
Thank you, Megan. And students, don't hesitate to follow up if you've got further questions. We are absolutely here for you, and we want to make sure you get answers. Going to kick things over to Rico and Joe.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. We're just going to wait one more moment just to make sure everyone's here. Otherwise, just as we had earlier, go ahead and start typing any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll be sure to do our best to get to all of them today. Again, thanks for your patience. Okay, so I believe we've let a little bit of time between sessions go. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We are excited to have you all here once again. For a little bit of insight, all the students that you see on screen are either student admissions representatives with the Office of Admissions or peer advisors with the Academic Advising Office. And I'll go ahead and have our students introduce ourselves in just a short moment. But again, to interact with us and ask your questions, be sure to type those questions in the chat and we'll get those relayed to our panel. Now for our students, if you'd like to introduce yourselves, we'll go ahead and have you introduce yourselves with name, major, maybe where you transferred from, and maybe hometown. Are we all right with starting? Let's go ahead and start with Will.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Will. I'm a junior going into my senior year in the fall, studying business and sustainability. I transferred from Xavier University in Cincinnati, Ohio, so pretty far away. I grew up on the East Coast, and while I was in college, during my freshman year, excuse me, my parents moved out to Washington, so I transferred from there, came to Western after my freshman year, and so far really, really enjoying it. Right now I work in the Office of Admissions. I'm also in a couple different clubs on campus, and definitely can talk about more of that later if you'd like.
Great. Let's go ahead and have Elizabeth introduce yourself.
Hi, y'all. My name's Elizabeth. She, her pronouns. I transferred from Columbia Basin College here in Tri-Cities, Washington, where I'm currently at, so more specifically Pasco. I am an elementary education major with a minor in education and social justice, and I will be going into my 5th year at Western, so super excited to see and learn more about that, especially with this kind of bit of transition into online, so that'll be interesting.
Thank you. Graham, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Graham. I use he, him pronouns. I'm finishing up my junior year right now, linguistics major, queer studies minor, and women, gender, and sexuality studies minor. I'm from Seattle, but I started at the Evergreen State College in Olympia before I transferred here.
Thank you. Ashlyn.
Hi there, my name is Ashlyn. I use she, her, hers pronouns. My hometown is Everett, and it's also the community college that I transferred from, which is EVCC. And I am a sociology major with a minor in psychology. Oh, and also this will be going into fall will be my senior year at Western.
Great. Thank you, Ashlyn. And finally, Grace Ann.
Hi, I'm Grace Ann. I am a communications and theater minor, or communications major, theater minor. I transferred from SPSCC in Olympia, Washington. And then this is actually my final quarter here at Western.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into some questions for the panel here. A general one for all of you, going in the same order that we had before. What did you choose Western for? Why did you choose to transfer to Western? Starting with Will.
Awesome. So I actually applied to Western and was accepted before even coming to visit. My sister at the time was looking at different colleges and universities in the Pacific Northwest, and her and my parents took a tour of Western, and my mom just wouldn't stop talking about it, how like beautiful the campus was, how it was right on the water, how Mount Baker was just like a couple hours away, and it just seemed like a fantastic fit. So during the spring break of my freshman year, I actually came and toured the campus, and it just felt immediately like a really great spot for me, just both physically and just like the atmosphere of all the students that I met and the different programs that were offered. So it was the only school that I actually applied to transfer to, and fortunately I got in, and it's just been a really great experience ever since.
Great, thank you. Elizabeth.
Yeah, for me, I had kind of two major factors I went into choosing Western, and one of them was just because it was really beautiful, like Will mentioned. Being from Tri-Cities, we have a very different kind of atmosphere and climate over here, so it's very dry, very desert-like, whereas Western is surrounded by a bunch of trees, and it's just generally a little bit more wet than over here, which is really nice. But then also, I've been with my family my entire time, and as much as I love them, I kind of needed some space, and Western was far enough away that I knew I wouldn't have family visiting all the time, but it was still close enough where I could come back home whenever I wanted to, and my siblings could come up and visit me too if they really wanted to make that trek. So those are my kind of big reasons for choosing Western.
Thank you, Graham.
Yeah, one of my big factors was I really wanted to stay in state, but the other one was that I was transferring specifically to be able to continue studying linguistics. And so of the in-state schools in Washington that offer linguistics, Western seemed just like the most appealing. I really wanted to stay at a university that was still relatively small and like the town, and still I feel like a town had things happening in it. And I'm from Seattle, and so I really wanted to not be in Seattle, which is a reason I picked like Western over UW. But then similar to Will, I was accepted before I had been here. And then when I visited, I just fell in love with the campus.
Ashlyn.
Very similar to Will and Graham. I got accepted before I had even seen the campus. And when I had came, I was just overwhelmed with how beautiful it is. And it literally is right on the water, which is just, it's so awesome to go on campus and you're surrounded by nature everywhere you go. And the people there are also super duper nice. And it does kind of have that smaller town kind of vibe, but still kind of a lively city with a lot of people in it, which is main reason why I wanted to do that, because I wanted to get away and out of Everett, but also be in a place where I could branch out and meet a lot of new people, which Western has given me the opportunity to do.
Thank you. And Grace Ann.
Yeah, I really wanted to stay in state, like a lot of people here probably just for cost reasons as well. And then as I kind of looked at the transition process of what it would mean to transfer to an in-state, like kind of more major university, I found that Western was the easiest transition for me. So I had a very good experience transferring my credits from my community college to here. And then otherwise, yeah, I just love the campus. I love the area, and it feels like the most value as well as the best environment.
Great, thank you. And for this next question, as we have a few to get through, we're just going to have a couple students weigh in. But if we can start again with Grace Ann here on our next question. What resources have been most useful to you as a transfer student?
I found that just like the way that the Western's web pages are laid out, it can kind of take a little bit of a learning curve to kind of dive through all the pages. But as you kind of look and go through the My Western now that it's more organized, just kind of searching and spending time looking through all the resources has been really helpful. So the online has been a good experience for me.
Thank you. Does anyone else have some major resources that they feel really help them navigate coming into Western? Maybe Will.
Yeah, I think the most important thing for me was when I actually visited Western for the first time, I was able to meet with the pre-major advisor in the College of Business, because I was pretty sure that's where I wanted to go once I got here. And she was really helpful in laying out kind of the groundwork for how my credits were going to transfer, what like classes I should look into taking in the fall and things like that. And that was really helpful, just knowing that she kind of understood my situation right off the bat and was really there to help guide me and whatnot. And it was also really helpful too, because I wasn't in state and only got to visit that one time. I stayed in pretty good email contact with the registrar's office, I believe, and they send you a kind of a transfer equivalency report talking about all the classes that you took in your previous school and how they would transfer here to Western. So really taking a look at that and understanding what classes I had already taken, or what maybe like AP classes or whatnot, or what requirements those fulfilled, so I could just start checking off boxes towards my degree. That was really helpful.
Great, thanks. So with our next question here, same thing, we'll stick to a couple students weighing in, possibly starting here with Elizabeth. What are some of our larger or more popular majors?
I can't like speak specifically number wise, but I do know that our environmental sciences majors are pretty popular because, like a few other people have mentioned, we are kind of surrounded by all sources of nature. We have like woods on one side, we have the water to our other side, we have Mount Baker pretty close. We have a Shannon Point Marine Center. So all of those things are kind of play into how popular those environmental sciences can get. However, another major that we have that's pretty popular is actually the education major. Speaking as someone who is in Woodring College of Education, there are quite a few different avenues that you can go into with education, from higher ed to secondary ed to elementary, special ed, all of those kind of things. They all can get very popular, and that's mainly because we have such a good practicum program. So we have huge opportunities for education majors to get actual like service learning and practice done in the classroom. So we're able to go in classrooms, go into different community centers, and put what we're learning into practice. So we get a lot of field experience in that way. So I'd say, you know, those two are pretty big majors. I'm sure there's other majors that are very popular, but those are the ones that I tend to hear of the most.
Great, thank you. And Ashlyn, did you have anything you might want to add?
I would would say that also psychology and English are pretty major majors at Western. I know a lot of people. I used to be a psych major and switched to sociology, and I met a lot of people because it's a pretty popular major, I would say, but also English as well too, and that kind of ties into what Elizabeth was talking about with education.
Great, thank you both. With our next question here, this will be geared towards each and every one of you that may have lived on a dorm on campus. And the question is, which dorm would be the best for transfer students? Will.
Awesome. So I think everyone's going to probably say the dorm that they lived in if they lived on campus when they transferred. Personally, I lived in Edens Hall because I was accepted into the honors program as well, and that was just a really great opportunity because I got to meet a lot of the students who I was also going to class with, because they lived in the same dorm. But if I was transferring in and didn't have that opportunity, I would definitely look into Buchanan Towers or possibly our Burnham Wood apartments. Both of those are really great options. Some of them have kitchenettes, so you can do a lot of your own cooking, and it just feels a little more independent perhaps than living in a dorm. And you'll probably be surrounded by perhaps some older students, so you're not just going to be around a bunch of 18-year-olds if that's like a concern for you if you're a little bit older. And so that's a really great opportunity just to kind of transition towards independence and whatnot.
Great. Elizabeth.
I lived in on the Ridgeway, in the Ridgeway complex, so I was in Gamma, and I liked my time in there. However, I kind of am siding with Will. I think if you're a transfer student, I would definitely look into Buchanan Towers or Burnham Wood. And I did see a comment in there that said that they thought Buchanan Towers was pretty far from campus. It's actually not. It's pretty close to campus. It's a bit farther from like Red Square, so the north side of campus, but it's definitely still you're still able to reach there, whether it's via bus or just walking. I know there is going to be an accessibility issue. However, the bus is pretty manageable and accessible, I would say. However, I can't speak for everyone, but definitely check out Buchanan Towers and Burnham Wood because they are going to tend to have a bigger population of students who are transfer students or a little bit older. So if that's a concern that you might have, like Will said, I would definitely check those out.
Graham.
Yeah, so I lived in Nash, and I actually only lived there for 1 month, my first month once I transferred here. So I can't speak a lot to living on campus, but I do know that on the flip side of Buchanan Towers, I did appreciate being close to North Campus, and a lot of my classes were around Red Square. So I did appreciate that because I felt pretty connected to the bustle.
Thank you. Ashlyn.
I actually never lived on campus. When I transferred up, I did some searching and found a house with some other people that were going to Western and lived with them, which was also a really cool experience because I've never lived on my own. So it was kind of crazy adjusting to that. I did have a lot of friends that lived in Eden, I think, as well, like Will had said, and it was really, really pretty. I liked it there. There's a lot of cool times where they would hang out with people that were really close to them, and so I kind of missed out on that experience. So if I could do one thing differently, I think I would live on campus.
Thank you. And Grace Ann.
To mirror Ashlyn, I also never lived on campus, but I can speak. I looked into Burnham Wood, and it seemed like a good option for a lot of people who are a little bit older, as well as I can just say that the bus service is incredibly reliable around here. So if you choose whether on campus or off campus, the bus is really nice.
Great. So this next question, mainly directed towards Will, but what sort of question or what sort of clubs or activities have you been involved with or are currently involved with? And how do you keep up to date with what's going on campus?
Yeah, so in terms of keeping up to date, I feel like that's the easier of the two questions. Really, like, social media is just a great way. Like, I'm in a number of like different Facebook groups for all the different like organizations that I'm in. Make sure you're always checking like your Western email. I check that probably 4 or 5 times a day just to keep up with classes and different activities. Western sends out an email every day kind of talking about various happenings on campus, so it's really good to see what's going on there. And then in terms of clubs, So right now I'm the president of our Business and Sustainability Club, which I helped to found back almost a year ago now, I guess, or a little more than a year ago. And that's been a really great opportunity, just trying to build community within a pretty small major, as well as bring some like outside guest speakers. We actually went to a conference in Detroit in last October, which was fully funded through the school. So that was just a really great opportunity there. Then I'm also a member of Alpha Kappa Psi, which is like a professional development organization here on campus. So we do a lot of like resume building and LinkedIn and all that good stuff to hopefully help everybody get a job once they graduate here.
Great, thank you, Will. For this next question, Elizabeth, have you had any experience or been involved with Fairhaven College at all?
Yeah, actually, so I'm not in Fairhaven College of Interdisciplinary Studies, but I am taking a class in there. Actually, this quarter was my first time, and that is because I'm doing education and social justice. So there's quite a few classes that kind of dip their toes both in Woodring and in Fairhaven. My experiences so far has been amazing. The professor that I have, Clayton Pierce, he's my first professor that I've had within Fairhaven, and I've had really good experiences with him. They prioritize something that I've been learning this entire time that I've been at Western, which is critical pedagogy. They apply that very well to the classroom. They're very in tune with what the students need throughout the quarter, especially right now with this huge change onto online. I know it was something I was very nervous about because I don't do very well online, but he's made it super easy, super accessible, both to talk to him and just to navigate the Canvas course. So while I've only ever actually had one Fairhaven class and I'm still taking it, I've had a really good time. One thing I can say though for Fairhaven is that if you're someone who maybe gets nervous about grades and things like that, Fairhaven actually doesn't really have a grade system, as in you won't get an A through F type letter grade. You will get what they have as performance reports essentially. So both the student and the professor will be writing a report about themselves and how they've done and their performance throughout that quarter in that class. And then, if you've done really well, essentially those could be letters of recommendations from your professors, because it's just going to highlight everything you've done really well, or things that you could work on and so on. But so far my experience has been really nice.
Thank you, Elizabeth. This next question is for Graham and Ashlyn. What are some resources that might be helpful for students finding or looking for off-campus housing? Graham.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's definitely one I asked myself. We do have an off-campus housing office they're one place that I got in contact with, and they can offer various different kinds of help. I don't remember exactly, and I won't speak to what I can't remember. But I know that they're a good contact, and honestly, just like talking to other people that and just seeing if they can talk to people, because there's a lot of info that's passed that way. So that's also an option.
Yeah, just like Graham said, I was going to talk about The Office, which is something that I got recommended to me by a friend. I had used it, and I had also found an app. I think it was called Roomies or something like that. But I had used that for a little bit to try to find housing, and then ended up getting in contact with some other people that were like, hey, we're looking for a third roommate. And it worked out pretty well. I would just definitely agree and back up Graham on saying asking around is also a great way to do it. I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there that know people that are looking for roommates, especially right now, around this time.
Thank you, Ashlyn. Ashlyn, we're going to stay on you for this next question as well, you and Grace Ann. But how could you possibly meet other transfer students? Is there any advice that you might give for someone who might feel isolated, or ways to find new community?
I for sure was scared that I wasn't going to meet anybody and was super nervous about that. And I kind of am a very shy person at first. I do think though that classes actually give a great opportunity for you to meet people, especially with similar interests. It's really interesting. As soon as you're taking a class, there's a lot of times where you kind of have to talk to other people and have to work with others. And so it gives you a great opportunity to meet people alike to you. There's also a lot of like activities and stuff like that that they have on campus, and you can see flyers around for stuff all the time about different events and stuff that are going on, which are a great way to kind of put yourself out there to get to know other people. But I would definitely say that classes were like a great way for me to make friends, which is really weird because I didn't think that that would happen. But I actually met a lot of people that I'm still in contact with and miss dearly right now.
Thank you, Grace Ann.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that classes are a great opportunity because I feel like with transfer students, you might think you're like, oh, everybody's just been here this whole time. But I think as you get into your major, especially, you'll meet a lot of different people that maybe like just came in and they started their major. So that's been a great opportunity. My other way that I met a lot of people was actually through on-campus jobs and job searching because I worked like in the food service and then now in the academic advising center. And both of those were great resources in kind of just meeting new people as well as just getting more connected with the campus.
Thank you, Grace Ann. And this next question actually is for Grace Ann as well. Are there any opportunities for aspiring public speakers?
Well, I can at least say for being a part of the communications major, I know they do have a couple classes that are public speaking oriented. And I think also like as far as, I guess it depends what kind of speaker as far as that, because I know business I'm sure has opportunities as well, different resources there. And then in the theater program, that's usually pretty open for if you're interested in that kind of public performance. It's pretty open as far as you don't have to be a part of the major to be a part of the theater program as well. So there's a couple different avenues as you kind of sleuth them out.
Great, thank you. Now for this next question, I'll go ahead and have Will and Graham weigh in. Starting with Will, did you know what you wanted to major when you applied to Western?
Yeah, so my freshman year, I actually went in as a marketing major. It seemed like a really great combination of like kind of public speaking and like maybe an advertising component, excuse me. But I really didn't find what I was looking for in that major. And so transferring to Western, I didn't have a firm grasp, but I was looking through the different business majors and they had a lot of like the typical ones you'll see at most schools: accounting, finance, marketing, management, things like that. But they also had this business and sustainability major, which was really a really cool combination of our business school and our Huxley College of the Environment. So that really spoke to me. I'm kind of interested in like business ethics and using business principles to solve like environmental problems and things like that. And so it just seemed like a really good fit. And I started just taking a few classes, and it just like the more and more classes that I took, like I couldn't get enough of it. And so it was a really like pretty seamless fit. That being said, a lot of people don't know what they're coming or what they want to major in coming into college, and that's totally okay. You get to take a lot of our GUR, General University Requirement classes, and everything like all sorts of different classes: history, English, math classes, things like that. And so you can really like learn what you like and don't like, and hopefully that'll help you narrow down your decision.
Great, and Graham, same question.
Yeah, so I actually did know what I wanted to major in. It's part of the reason I picked Western, but that's a pretty unusual case to know. Like I knew I wanted to study linguistics going into college, and it's pretty unusual to know and then stick with it. But my previous college had stopped offering it, and so that's part of the reason I chose Western. And then once I toured here before my first quarter, I met with the linguistics department and like sat in on a class, and it was excellent. I've just continued to be really pleased with like all the resources that they have. And so the short answer is yes, I did know what I wanted.
All right, so this next question, how do I find jobs on or off campus? If we could, let's go ahead and start with Elizabeth.
So I have a job on campus. I'm one of the student admissions representative for the admissions office. And I actually found this job through a text from a mentor of mine. So she is a prior alum to Western as well. And she kind of kept up to date with a lot more Western things than I did when my first year. So she was constantly sending me things that was going on, and she sent me the application for this job. So that's kind of how I heard about this one. But there is, through our website, you can just search up the jobs that are offered, and there's over 3,000 different jobs for student employees across the board. So you can be like a tour guide like I am, or you can work in the dining halls, you can work as front desk members for different colleges at Western. You can do barista style jobs with our Starbucks or other cafes on campus. It's just a matter of searching through our website to see what's available. Or if you just have friends who are also working on campus, they might be able to give you a hand and tell you who's hiring where. I know the dining hall is not constantly looking for new workers, but they often have jobs available for students, especially as students are leaving after a few quarters or graduating and things like that. So definitely check out the website, but also ask maybe people who work at Western already to see if they have any details.
Great. And then I'll also open this up to the panel if you want to weigh in on this question in terms of your own experience.
I can weigh in. So I work as the lead academic student advisor for the Academic Advising Center, and I also work in their office as a peer advisor. And I started and found these jobs by having an academic advising appointment. And my advisor and I were sharing our love for class finder and timetable and planning classes. And so that's how I heard about this position. So I'll just add that in.
All right. Well, thank you. For this next question, it is, what is something you wish you knew when you were coming into Western as a transfer student? Is there anything that you would do differently? Starting with Grace Ann.
I think just in terms of what I would do differently, I think I did a lot of like preparing, and I had taken a year off between my completing my DTA and then coming to Western. So I think just in general, just like taking your time as well as kind of researching the majors initially. I think getting in contact with majors directly is the best thing to do as you're coming into Western, because once you, especially as a transfer student, depending on how many credits you have, your kind of transition into your major oriented studies is pretty quick. So I think I would maybe take a more active role in reaching out to my department specifically and talking to them directly.
Thanks, Grace Ann. And how about Ashlyn?
I think that one thing I would for sure do differently is pretend that I don't know everything. I think that it's really easy when you're a transfer student to think that you kind of have it all planned out and all mapped out, which can be very true. You can be really organized, but that's not to say that you shouldn't use other resources like talking to advisors and stuff like that, kind of like what Grace Ann was saying. I wish I would have taken the opportunity to talk to them a lot sooner. It would have given me a lot more insight and advice for sure on what to do and how to go about my major. So yeah, I think that getting help is something that I would have wanted myself to recognize was okay. That's for sure a really big component.
Thank you, Ashlyn. This next question, how do I get help with financial aid? Or where can I learn more about scholarship opportunities? Let's have Elizabeth start.
The financial aid office has been a huge help for me, whether it's going in person or just emailing them. It's just been a huge help. So that's mainly how I get my help for financial aid, is going in or emailing them about if it's a question I think they can answer via email, I'll just email it to them. But if I feel like I need to go in, especially right around that time when the quarter is going to start, or you're getting like tuition balances and things like that, that you're a little bit worried about, I would definitely go into the office, just because the people there, they're going to be helping you know a lot about what they're doing. I also am pretty fortunate that I have a friend who is working within the financial aid office. So she's also able to give me some sound advice on what I can do and what I need to do. And one of her biggest pieces of advice for me since she started has just been like, if you have any minor question, literally just email the office because they're there to help you. And I think a lot of times students assume that they're not going to be getting very much help, so they don't reach out. And I know I've been pretty fortunate in my experiences, and maybe that's not the same experience for everyone, but that's my main source of getting help for financial aid for me. So I do really love the financial aid office for what they've been able to do for me.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Is there anyone else that'd like to share their experience with that, whether it be financial aid or scholarship related?
I think that it's really, really cool to keep an eye out on emails that you get through your student email. That is a really, really good resource. And I was somebody that was like, I don't need my email, like whatever, it's pointless. But I actually used it a lot, and wish I used it sooner, because a lot of times they will send information about scholarships that are coming in, or ones that apply to you specifically, which is really, really cool. Even ones that can apply just because of your major as well, which is something that's really interesting and should be taken advantage of.
I will add one more thing about the scholarship since you mentioned that, Ashlyn. Definitely check your emails, but also check your college's like website. All colleges should have a specific website geared towards them. For me, for education, they have an entire like page meant for the scholarships that are offered for that particular program, so you know that you're going to be likely eligible for a lot of them. So definitely check out the website for whatever college you're interested in, whether it's education or College of Business and Economics or anything else. That'd be a huge help for scholarships.
Great, thank you. Moving on to the next question, is there anything you regret maybe not doing so far, or when coming into Western? So kind of going back to the same question of, is there anything you would do differently? This time we'll have Will weigh in.
That's kind of difficult. I don't think there's anything like specific that I wish I had done differently. Maybe I would have explored a few more like majors outside of the College of Business, or just taken some like classes